Chapter 1: Laws and Methods that Ensure Success. In the past, the study of psychology was purely speculative. It had no definite object in view. Its attention was devoted almost exclusively to a general study of mental phenomena, but no thought was given to the possible effect of such phenomena. It did not study the mind itself, nor were attempts made to determine what effect the movements of the mind might have upon the practical side of everyday life. Psychology, therefore, was something that was more or less intangible, something that was largely theoretical, something that was looked upon as far removed from the field of personal action. For this reason, such terms as practical psychology or business psychology could have no significance whatever. But in this respect, as well as in many other respects, things have changed remarkably in recent years. We now know that all psychology is practical or can be made practical, and that the most important side of everything in the world of practical action is the psychological side. It is therefore evident that there must be a business psychology. In fact, a business psychology is absolutely necessary, because it is the psychology of business that makes it possible for the business itself to live, grow, and develop. This, however, many businessmen do not realize, while the majority of those who have come to this realization do not dearly understand the actual purpose nor the possible power of the psychological element. They know that it is the psychology of the thing, or rather, the way in which the psychological side is employed that determines results, but they do not have a clear idea as to how the psychological side can be directed or employed to the best advantage. But as this understanding is absolutely necessary if the desired results are to be secured, with a certainty, it is evident that the need of a business psychology is very great, to say the least. To achieve success in the largest possible measure is the lifelong ambition of every wide-awake businessman, and therefore he refuses, and justly so, to give his attention to those things through which his success may not be promoted. Though in his enthusiasm to pursue what is usually spoken of as successful business methods, he has overlooked the most important of all. That is, he has practically ignored the psychology of business, not knowing its nature or value. He has instead given his attention almost exclusively to what is usually spoken of as more practical subjects. But here we meet a large question. What is it that makes a subject practical? And what are the things that really make for success? The average businessman is unable to give the answer. In fact, most businessmen have never thought seriously of this subject. The average businessman believes that the principal secrets to success are found in hard work, enterprise, economy, safe investments, and an abundance of good luck. But here, we may well ask why the great majority of businessmen do not succeed as well as they might wish, regardless of the fact that they follow all the rules of the captains of business that have gone before. We also might ask in the same connection why the reason is that such an enormous amount of waste is constantly taking place in nearly every industrial establishment. It is a well-known fact that the waste both in production and distribution is enormous, and we know that the businessman does not wish it to be so. He is daily losing through such channels. But why does he permit these losses to continue if he is fully convinced that he is in possession of the real secrets of business success? When we note the many mistakes that are made, even by the leaders in the commercial world, and how the great majority are almost constantly standing in their own light, we may be pardoned for doubting the idea that modern business has been made a science, and that exact methods have been found for securing success. People who are not in direct contact with the business world are frequently told to imitate modern business methods if they would succeed, and to establish themselves upon the same sound principles if they would achieve something worthwhile. But what are those principles? Who can tell us? It is a fact that the average businessman is unable to state definitely what principles he considers to be at the basis of a successful business. Then we may be permitted to ask how modern businesses can be so very sound, realizing the fact that the majority fail to get more than a bare living out of it, and also that a considerable number of those who achieve great success, as the world measures success, frequently employ methods that are not justifiable. There are a great many very successful businessmen who have achieved their success through legitimate means only. But when we analyze the lives of those men, we find that they did not succeed through the use of what is usually termed modern business methods. They knew something about the psychology of business, or they employed the principal elements of business psychology, possibly without using this term, or without knowing the exact nature of the principles employed. It is not the purpose here to find fault with business methods or to criticize anything in any shape or form, but it is a fact that when we thoroughly examine all of those methods that are directly connected with modern business, and then at the same time examine closely the nature and the workings of the human mind in all its phases, we invariably come to the conclusion that business, as it has been conducted up until recent years, has been a hopeless mixture of unscientific schemes and bungling methods. We are speaking, of course, of business in general. There are many noble exceptions, and it is these noble exceptions that give the commercial world what stability it is known to possess. However, when speaking of modern business and modern business methods, we do not refer to the progressive business of this age, but to that phase of business that is gradually passing as it is giving way to the coming of business psychology. And we simply mention the methods and the principles of that form of business that is passing in order to produce a more definite contrast with the new idea of business. That is, a business that will be strictly scientific, or that is, based upon the principles of business psychology. It is a well-known fact that the commercial world is one of the prime essentials in the promotion of the welfare of man, and therefore it ought to be conducted upon the very best principles possible, and should accordingly employ methods through which the very best results, and only the best results, may be secured. But to make this possible, we must go back of effects. We must go back of mere business itself and find the power that is in it all. This power we know to be the man of mind, and the study of mind is called psychology. Therefore, the study of the human mind, as related to the business world, and as directly applied in the business world, will naturally be termed business psychology. The mind has many phases, therefore. There are many phases of psychology, in fact, as many kinds as there are individualized uses for the mind. And as the mind is the principal factor in commercial achievements, we naturally conclude that a thorough knowledge of such psychology must be indispensable to him who would succeed in business, or who aims to secure the greatest results through his efforts wherever those efforts may be applied. When we examine what is usually termed success in the commercial world, we come to the conclusion that such success depends directly upon ability, self-confidence, concentration, and enterprise. It is with these factors, therefore, that we must begin, as these are fundamental, though there are scores of others that will have to be considered in a complete study of this subject. At the very outset, every businessman must possess these four essentials if he would be successful in a true and lasting sense. But to secure these essentials, he must study business psychology. That is, he must study the use of the mind in business. If he already has these essentials, he must, in order to secure the best results, understand the use of the mind, because a factor is of no value no matter how well it is developed until it is scientifically applied. In either case, therefore, practical psychology becomes indispensable. In the past, the idea was simply to proceed to use your ability as well as you knew how, without giving any attention whatever to the principles and laws that govern the use of that ability. In brief, the use of talent or practical ability along any line was continued in some helter-skelter fashion, and when success was secured, it was counted good luck. Times, however, have changed. Now we know that good luck is simply the result of scientific application and that it may be created by man himself, provided he knows how to use himself or apply himself. The wise businessman today does not proceed in any way that happens to be convenient. He insists upon understanding the scientific way so as to get definite results and the desired results from every move he makes. He is not satisfied to simply say that brains and ability will ensure success. He knows that a man may have plenty of brains and any amount of ability and never succeed, because it is not only an essential to possess those factors that are needed in success, we must also know how to use those factors. The majority do not know how to use their brains to their best advantage, nor do they know how to use their mental and physical energies. This is proven by the fact that the average person wastes more energy than he applies in his work, and also that most of his faculties are never applied to full capacity. We are all aware of the fact that there are thousands of men and women with fine brains and splendid abilities who go through their work every day, making mistakes at every turn, and who go through life without accomplishing really anything worthwhile. And the cause of this is found in the fact that the science of practical application has not been studied. In other words, those men and women have not become familiar with business psychology. To have a fine brain is absolutely necessary, and a good mind is indispensable. But brain and mind do not control themselves. We must know how to make exact and scientific use of these things if we are to accomplish what we have in view. How to use the mind according to system, law, and scientific method, that is what constitutes practical psychology. And the importance of this subject is becoming so great that the day is fast approaching when it will be taught in all universities. In the meantime, the man who would succeed according to full capacity must seek this knowledge from every available source and must never cease his study. When men and women proceed in life to do their share in science, art, industry, or civilization, they should have principles upon which to base their work, and such principles as would assure constant advancement. Even though the advancement be slow, it is nevertheless true that so long as you understand the principles of advancement and apply those principles, you will continue to move forward. And he who continues to move forward is already meeting with success. But in the average mind, there is no certainty as to how to proceed in order to move forward continuously. When a man proceeds to dig a ditch, he knows that the ditch will continue to grow longer so long as he applies the spade. In his mind, there is no doubt as to the outcome of his work. But in the mind of the average businessman, there is constant doubt. He does not know what the results will be, and therefore, his methods are not nearly as scientific as the methods of the man in the ditch. This, however, is not complementary to the supposed superior intelligence of the businessman, though the cause of this uncomplimentary position is found in the fact that the businessman does not understand the principles upon which he works. He proceeds usually in a helter-skelter fashion and is not certain as to whether he is building for greater things or is moving toward failure. The majority today do not know where they will be tomorrow. They do not know whether they will be in poverty or in some unexpected good fortune, and most of them live constantly in a subconscious dread of reverses. Their minds are therefore under a cloud, and no mind can do its best under such conditions. It is evident, therefore, that we must proceed along different lines in the commercial world. We must try to find those principles through which we know success can be attained with a certainty, provided, of course, that we continue to apply those principles with the same enthusiasm as the man applies his strength upon the spade who is working in the ditch. If we aim to produce great men and women and to secure the greatest achievements possible from the efforts of such men and women, we must give them methods through which the mind may always be at its best, regardless of circumstances or adversity, and methods that will always produce the desired results when applied, regardless of the conditions that may prevail. And to present such methods is the purpose of practical psychology. In fact, practical psychology can give us principles, laws, or methods that will positively ensure success. Anyone who will apply such methods will move forward. He will advance every year just as certainly as the rising of the sun. So long as he applies the principles of practical psychology, he will gain ground steadily, and his success will increase from year to year. In fact, there is one thing that he is positively assured of, and that is success, a continued and constantly increasing success. If his ability is limited, his advancement in the beginning will be slow. But since he can yearly increase his ability, the advancement from year to year will become more rapid in proportion. However, if his ability is very great, his advancement from the beginning will be remarkable and will constantly increase as he continues the further development of that ability. Here, we have a solid foundation for sound business, and it is established upon the scientific use of mind and ability according to such requirements as are demanded in the commercial world. Any man or woman, therefore, who will find the work that is most suitable for the talents possessed may, through the application of practical psychology, be assured of a real, a constant, and an ever-increasing success. And in this connection, it is well to remember that business psychology can also aid the individual in finding that work for which he is best adapted. Such statements as we must inevitably make when examining the possibilities of practical psychology may seem to be too strong to be based upon absolute fact. But the question is, cannot any mathematical problem be worked out when we know the principles, the laws, and the methods involved? We admit that it can. Then why should not this rule hold everywhere? Every successful businessman in the world has achieved his success through the right use of his mental faculties at the right place and the right time. We must conclude, therefore, that when we learn to use our talents in the right way, at the right time, and in the right place, we shall also have the right results. This everybody will of course admit. But is it always possible to act rightly at the right time and place? This may not always seem possible, but here, as elsewhere, the rule holds that difficult things seem impossible only until we know how. When we know how, the most difficult becomes most simple. The wise man, however, does not stand back and call such things impossible as he does not understand. On the contrary, he comes forward and demands the desired information. If there is anything better to be had, he wants it, and such men always get it. The man who has his eyes open, who is always looking for the best that is to be had, that is the man who always gets the best. Accordingly, he steadily rises in the scale, while those who are constantly being frightened by the word impossible continue to lag behind, wondering in the meantime why some people have such good luck and others have not. The wise man does not require tangible demonstrations to prove a valuable idea. You do not have to show him effects in order to prove the value of the cause. When you give him a good idea, he knows that the idea is good, and that if applied, will produce good results. Accordingly, he does not wait for somebody else to produce the results. He proceeds to produce those results himself, and thereby reaps the benefit of a very valuable principle employed at the psychological moment. Those, however, who wait for somebody else to prove the value of an idea do not take advantage of the psychological moment, and therefore miss a great opportunity. We see these things taking place every day, and it simply proves that the successful businessman must change his tactics and must try to gain a deeper understanding of those laws and principles that underlie results in the commercial world. It is only in this way that he can meet the growing demands of advancement and continue to be up in front, regardless of how rapid the progress of the world may be. And most businessmen in this age realize this great fact. They realize that something else is needed besides the old methods to ensure success in the commercial world. They know that success depends upon the man himself, the mind that the man possesses, and the way the faculties of that mind are employed. They also appreciate the many aids to success that are to be found in knowing how to detect and take advantage of opportunities that are constantly passing by. But beneath all of this, they realize that there must be a real science of business, a science that any man can learn, a science which, if faithfully applied, must with a certainty produce results desired in every case. And all that is necessary to add in this connection is that such a science must inevitably be the natural outcome of a thorough study and a thorough application of the principles of practical psychology.